Alrighty, everybody, and we are live. It's your boy, Jimmy, back at you with another episode of Combat and Cryptids. So, yeah, I think the volume on this sounds pretty good. I don't know. So, I got a new mic, guys. And I'm hoping it sounds alright. I mean, I did like a little sound check with it, so maybe it should be good, though. You should be able to hear it pretty well, I guess. But we'll find out at the end of this, and maybe I'll have to tweak the audio. But we'll see. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And we're almost through. We're halfway through with the week, so let's just get through it. All right? But other than that, God, that drink is so good. Oh, my God. Yeah, other than that, so this week's subject, we split it into two. So the one comment that we had, so my daughter's really big into this, and I don't know if she's gonna be into it after we talk about it. I guess I don't know. We'll have to see. But so she wanted to talk about fairies, and I found some weird ass different types of fairies all over the country. So we'll see how how this works out. And then the second part we're gonna talk about is I like these like really creepy ass ghost stories, because those are like the fairies and stuff like that. Like all of this stuff is cool, but like the ghost stuff is like it's, I wouldn't say it's more real, I guess, I don't know, but it's more um physical than anything, I guess, more spiritual and stuff like that, and people get weirded out by it. So after we're done with these 15 stories about fairies that prove they're more creepy than cute, we'll go into some ghost stories and see how that goes. As always, so we got to come up with a name for this dude right here, this little guy right here. My brother bought me this, because I started doing the podcast, and he sent me this little Bigfoot dude, so I thought it was pretty cool. But I'm thinking of Herbert, maybe. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So, I mean, if you guys want to name him or give me some suggestion names, I guess we can go with that and see what his name will be, because he's always in the videos, whether he's like behind the scenes or he's always on the desk at least. So we'll see how it goes. But anyways, let's jump into this thing, shall we? So when you think, oh, and I got the stories now, so they're just on my computer now. So now I don't need the paperwork. I don't need to hurt the trees and do all that kind of stuff. So now it's on my computer here, and I got my laptop right here for the video recording. So it should be pretty seamless now. We'll see how it goes. But yeah. Oh, one more thing. I still appreciate everybody, all the likes, all the comments, all the views, new subscribers, whatever it is. I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out, listening to me for 5, 10, 15, however long you listen to it. I hope you guys still enjoy it and something different, and we'll see how it goes. But when you think of fairies, what comes to mind? You probably picture an adorable and sparkly creature akin to Disney's Tinkerbell, a lovely and above all friendly presence. You may even want to make contact with them. Unfortunately, glittering humanoids with butterfly wings are the stuff of children's stories. Retrace fairy folklore. So they spell fairy Faerie. Like mostly, I think we spell it fairy Fairy. Like, so I thought that was already different. That's why I never really looked at it, because I'm like, Faeries, like what the hell are those? But it's fairies. That's how I spell it. And you'll discover the secret, scary origins. Cultures all over the world put their own disturbing spin on the fae. In Wales, fairy folk tales take away babies and leave their own twisted offspring in their place. Scottish kelpies, meanwhile, are known for their taste for human flesh. As for Icelandic Holdafolk and Filipino Berboca, you'll have to keep reading to discover just what makes them so chilling. Just because they're mythological doesn't mean their fairies are any less frightening. Here are a few of the darkest attributes. Just remember to shut your windows tight before going to sleep tonight. Alrighty. I mean, if you wanted to give a hook for like a mundane, not so creepy cryptid, like that's pretty good. And Amber Fowl was the one who wrote the story. So Their screams mean doom. The banshee, also known as woman fairy, originated in Ireland and is said to be the most active at night before a passing. In some folklore, she even comes to the door of those who are expected to pass. She looks like a full sized human female, and though her appearance varies by region, her hair is always stringy and she always wears a white gown or shroud. She frequently appears covered in moss as well. The banshee is recognized by her loud mourning wails, which are said to be harbinger of someone's demise. So that like some of these so with that one where do you guys think there are I guess you would call them omens, I guess omens for as far as like knowing when someone's gonna die, I guess. So my mom used to tell me all this story one time. She's from Texas. Yeah, I think she was. I don't know where. Yeah, I think she was born there. Yeah, or she might have been born across the border. I don't know, but so she was born in Texas, and she used to tell us these stories about these owls, and they weren't just like normal owls. They were like 4 or 5 foot owls, and when they would like mess with their feet or their claws and stuff like that, it would make the sounds of like a scissor. And those were, I mean, owls I think already are supposed to be a bad omen. They're supposed to be already like if you see an owl and it's not like in a normal setting, I guess. So like late at night and you're walking and you see an owl, like a lot of people hear them, but owls are supposed to be like a bad omen. So she would tell us that story and it would be fucking crazy. Can you imagine stumbling upon like a 4 or 5 foot owl? Like that would be crazy. The wingspan would be insane on that thing, but pretty crazy. So that made me think of that. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think there is some sort of? Do you think there's always some premonition or some omen or some sign that people are going to pass on into the afterlife, or is it just coincidence? I guess maybe I don't know. There's a lot of weird accounts though before people pass away of different things, so it is pretty nerve wracking, I guess. Um, their babies, their babies back from the grave. Utburbs are fairies that are believed to be revived spirits of babies who passed on during harsh winters. They tend to haunt anyone who hangs around the sites of their demise. Misery is their mission. Utburbs are even known to transform into large and see, I didn't even read this. Look at that. I didn't even read this, and this next sentence is going to shock you. Utburbs are even known to transform into large and terrifying owls that prey on night travelers. Boom! I swear to God, I've never read this story. I literally opened it, saw the opening line, I'm in, saved it, now it's on the computer. Didn't even read it. But that's crazy, right? Coincidence? Maybe not. And they they claw you to pieces. Jesus Christ. Typically illustrated as haggard and old red caps, are said to be armed with razor sharp teeth and claws, which they use to eat humans and fairies alike. Their name hints all their vicious nature. Red caps mop up their target's blood with their cap as they commit a slaying. So wait, so their caps are normal? Hide me, and this little picture says, "Hide me, little sweep," cried Redcap. "My brother is after me." Oh man, that's so fucked up. So basically, their caps used to be normal, and when they kill somebody, they clean the blood up with their caps, and that's why they're called red caps. Huh? I guess it's very simple answer for that one, I guess. Slay the children. Bean Fion fairies, also known as drowning fairies, they're said to pull children to their underwater doom. If you're searching for Bean Fion fairy, you're advised to look around dark waters where drownings have occurred. These creatures were likely devised by parents looking to keep their kids from playing in the water, but that doesn't make them any less creepy. So, in Illinois, we used to have this spot, and it was in Wilmington. It was probably like 10 minutes away from where we lived, and there was always people, and there was signs posted all the time, and it was basically it was a river but then it went closer to a dam, I guess, or like a levee, I guess you want to say. But it dropped down like 6 to 8 feet, and every year, I shit you not, every year there was always somebody that died there in that water because people would get too close to the levee when it would drop down. Um, and basically, when the water drops down like that, it creates like a huge like swirl or vortex under the water. And basically, if you get sucked into that, it'll basically just spin you around and spin you around, and you can't fight it because the current in there was insanely fast. But there would always be weird, like no one, like I don't think you were allowed to be there at night and stuff like that, so you weren't able to stay there and like just like watch the sunset and stuff like that because at dusk they would close it because people would always and they would always hear or see like creepy shit that would be out there. But I'm like, if every year somebody died there, like people come back to like mourn like memorials and stuff like that, so you're already antagonizing like that weird shit there. So, but that made me think of that one right there. Is it weird that I have a story for most of these? I hope I don't have one for this one. They get excited by death. Viracasts gather outside the homes of dying people while happily chattering to each other. These 18-inch tall harbingers of doom are instantly recognizable thanks to their vivid red color and their blood-stained teeth. According to folklore, they can be appeased, but it isn't easy. Viracasts require a shrine filled with daily burned offerings of flour and spice to leave you alone. So basically, all I'm getting out of that is if we had them happen here, we would have an abundant amount of shrines to give them because my wife does nothing but collect plants and flowers and she cooks everything with spices. so so we would be good at least for a while. We can go a couple weeks, but I don't know. Maybe you can't. Maybe you're not into flowers. I don't know. Maybe you are. They have evil souls. According to Irish folklore, the Slue Owl are fairies thought to be the souls of evil people. These fairies travel in swarms at night, often appearing like blackbirds. Their preferred prey are dying people who have yet to be given their last rites. What are last rites? Like I would assume, and I'm just making this assumption. I'm not. I don't know what it is. Your last rites are like your last words, or your last requests before you die, or rites of passage. I don't know. Maybe if you know, let me know because given their last rites, I don't know what that is. Some stories, however, say that you can call them by feeling deep sadness or simply by saying their name. Once the Slough have you in their sights, the only way to get rid of them is to offer another person in your place. But they're easy to spot in their humanoid form. The Slough Owl look like malnourished people with leathery wings. So could you do that? Do you think you guys would be able to do that? If this thing was after you, so if the Slough Owl was after you, or you called it, or you conjured it, or whatever it is, and you got to this point, and you're like, hey, like the only way that I can get rid of this thing is to offer them another person to play. Could you do that? Could you think you could give up somebody else? I'm trying to think if I had enough. Nah, I don't think I could do that. That'd just be fucked up, I guess. I don't think I hate anybody enough to do that. Like, I mean, I dislike people. Like, and I don't like being around people, but I don't think I could go to that extent. I feel like if I started it or had it, like, come after me, like, you got to deal with that kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like having kids. You just can't pawn that off. I mean, I guess you can. That's a bad choice. But anyways, so could you do it? Could you offer up another person in your place? Or could it be somebody random? What if it was somebody random? You could be like one random person, go. But it's got to be in like a state I've never lived in and never know the person. What if it's a kid? Yeah. That begs the thoughts, I guess. I don't know. They eat humans. Jesus Christ. I mean, these things are tiny though. Yeah, I would assume. Like fairies, you would think, besides the first one, which was like an actual woman, like most fairies you would think are like less than a couple feet. You don't think you could, I don't know. Maybe could you take on one of these? Fairies aren't just menaces to humans. They can be a threat to their own kind too. Consider kelpies, a kind of human-eating fae, small, ugly, and bulbous. Kelpies are known for their foul tempers. They were once said to crop up everywhere in Scottish lochs and the North Sea, but fell into decline thanks to their appetite for other fairies. But Kelpies don't discriminate when it comes to slaying. They love to eat deer that wander too near to the lochs, and they are able to shapeshift to lure in human prey. They are even folk tales about Kelpies, fork tales, Jesus Christ, who take the appearance of seahorses, luring young maidens who they then submerge and devour. Jesus Christ, that is one thing that I do want to talk about, like sirens and mermaids. Like I think that would be a good subject. I mean, in the comment section, everyone gave me great ideas for like the Goat Man. Like that was a good one, yeah. But everybody's giving me great ideas, and it's all things that I haven't talked about yet. Because it'd be weird if you gave me something I talked about, but things that I haven't talked about yet, so we can just kind of, one episode after another, just go after these things. But yeah, it's mermaids and sirens, like that's some creepy shit, and it's not creepy to this day. But back in the day, when we were first trying to discover America and everybody's sailing everywhere and all these weird, and most of the times I don't think it was, maybe it wasn't anything that they were seeing, but maybe they were out at sea too long, and that made, I don't know, like sleep deprivation and always seeing the ocean, like that'll drive people crazy. Like I've been on a boat for a long time, on a big ass naval boat, and it's nerve wracking and it's hard to do to deal with those kind of things, because you see the same people, you go outside and you see the same thing. It's just water everywhere. So I guess that would make you go insane and make you start seeing shit. They lure you in with bait. According to Filipino folklore, Berberoka are highly dangerous fairies that inhabit rivers and swamps. They are said to prey upon fishermen by ingesting large volumes of water, thereby bringing up fish. Once the fishers make their way to a specific spot, the Berberoka regurgitates the water to capsize the boat. Ultimately, the helpless fishers are dragged underwater and eaten. Wait, what? So this thing inhales or drinks basically a bunch of water, and it creates like a small type. Oh, I guess the picture kind of shows that. So they ingest a whole bunch of water, and then from there, they spit it back. Do they spit it like above the ground or under the? I mean, I guess you could create like a big like wave from it. I mean, I don't know. That just seems kind of weird, I guess. They take babies. So if you got babies, be careful. The Bendith, a clan of Welsh fairies, are notorious baby nappers. They nab human babies and replace them with their own deformed offspring, known as crimbles. Sometimes the Bendith will return the baby after teaching it about music, but more often than not, parents require the assistance of a witch to get their child back. When they aren't taking children, the Bendith get their kicks riding horses and tangling up their manes. That's fucked up. So they don't eat them or kill them, and I guess if you're anti like having fun, I guess that's not. I mean, I guess you don't want your baby taken, I guess, and swapped out with some deformed offspring. But why is your baby deformed though? I don't know. There's just more. I guess when I read these kind of stories, there's more questions than there are answers, because these are just like little short takes about each one. I'm sure I could go into each one of them and see what they're talking about. I mean, I guess I could at the end after we're done with all these stories, and maybe we can go back and look at some of these weirdos and see if it gets you any more detail. I've never clicked on any of them. Kind of just read the stories and keep it going. Their ugliness can end you. Jesus Christ. A threatening but solitary creature. The Faken fairy lives in the Highland Mountains. The Faken's brooding nature is due to its appearance, as has one of everything: one ear, one arm, one leg, one toe, and one eye. All of these features are centered directly down the middle of its body, which is both hairy and feathery. These creatures are said to be so hideous that the mere sight of them can stop a person's heart. The Fakin is sensitive about not having wings or the gift of flight, so it waves a spiked club at all living things that cross its path. Like, why would you do that? Not everything. I mean, we're pretty much the same thing. Like, I can't fly or have wings. So what the hell would anybody else do to you? Like, none of them can do that. So seems a little racist to me, but that's just my opinion. They get you lost. Mischievous will of the wisp haunt marshy ground and love playing practical jokes. However, their jokes consist of leading travelers astray with their flickering lights, sometimes leading people straight to their doom in the bogs. It is believed that steering clear of will-o'-the-wisp footpaths is the best way to avoid them, although they are known to be sometimes help people who are kind to them and offer them money. Will of the wisp, otherwise known as a creepy ass person in the woods. They wreck ships. The blue men of the Minch, or sea kelpies, prey on sailors. That's why I was in the Marine Corps. See? You don't hear about none of this from like the Marines. It's got to be sailors. They sport green beards and hair and are pretty buff. Some say that these creatures live in caves underwater and they can control the weather and the seas. I'm pretty sure that's Poseidon. If you ever plan on sailing in the high seas, make sure you have what it takes to defeat the sea kelpies. According to folklore, captains have escaped disaster on the water simply with their sharp tongues. However, the blue men of the Minch can only be beaten in rhyming duels. What? Where did they learn to rhyme? How did they learn to rhyme? Why do they have green beards? I mean, I guess it's like a good disguise, I guess. If you're blue and the green, maybe it looks like seaweed or like algae or something like that. Maybe. I don't know. That's kind of weird. They seduce, then they punish you. Oh my god, I can't even say this fucking name. Holdufolk are Icelandic fairies that are somewhat neutral. Some people believe them to be beneficial, and they build tiny wood homes for the fairies to live in. Holdufolk are typically malicious, but they do have a strict moral code. These human-like creatures are known to attempt to seduce people. Those who resist are rewarded, while anyone who surrenders is punished. Jesus Christ. Some of these people are like... They run around without clothes. Oh, pretty much like a chicken, I guess. The Calicantzaroi fairies are always without clothes. While they might make you uncomfortable, the creep factor comes in with their feet. They're usually shaped like those of different animals. Calicantzaroi fairies, good thing I don't have to say that fucking 10 times, tend to ride around on chickens and are blind. So they're typically found in groups. Sometimes they even recruit outcast fairies to be their guides. Where the fuck do people come up with this stuff? Or where do these stories originate? That's what I want to know. It's where they originate. They're hideous. Brownies. Oh, this is where the Cleveland Browns. That's why it's like a little... I guess it's supposed to be like a little goblin dude, but it kind of looks like a fairy, I guess, if you wanted to go that route. Brownies are typically guardian fairies. Oh, isn't that funny? We got the Cleveland Guardians. Oh, yeah, no shit. Who do chores and help out around the house. While they may sound sweet and endearing, folklore says that they are hideous to look at. In some religion of... So these motherfuckers clean and you're calling them ugly? Like, that's messed up. In some religions of Scotland... In some regions of Scotland, they have no separated toes or fingers in other areas. They have a hole in their face where their nose should be. I mean, I guess I could see why that'd be kind of hideous, I guess. But, I mean, if they're still cleaning your house, so it's not really that big of a deal, yeah. I would think it wouldn't be. So now let's go back up real quick. Look at one of them, because each one of their names is highlighted. Let's do the Bendith, the one who takes the babies and replaces them with their deformed offspring. So if I click on the name, where does it take me to? You have either reached a page that is unavailable for you or viewing Reach your viewing limit for this book. Oh, it's a book. Fairies and World Folklore and Mythology. Oh, okay. That's cool. I don't think I want that book though. $24. Jesus Christ. That thing come with Wi-Fi too? Alrighty, let's see. Let's see. So we can go either one. We can go one of two ways. We can go and talk about the Puck Wuggy, which is basically like a leprechaun in native folklore, or we can hit you with what the fuck? 12 real ghost stories that will send shivers down your spines. I like the ghost ones. I don't know. We'll save the Puckwuggy for another day. It's basically like a Native American leprechaun, which is really pretty. He's a pretty creepy dude. So Lauren Can wrote this one. Oh damn, it was updated May 9th, 2023. Alrighty. So, calling one of the bravest and bloodiest of ghost hunters, these scary stories are not for the faint of heart. The best ghost and scary stories feel so real, so believable, and so utterly chilling that they virtually guarantee you at least one night, if not more, spent tossing and turning while listening for creaking floors and the sound of ghostly moaning. Of course, this is the paradox. Inherent in ghost stories, the best they are, the worse you sleep at night. This is true even if you're a die in the wool supernatural believer. You know the type of person who has memorized details about Halloween origins, isn't scared to eye some creepy photos, knows the backstory between Halloween monsters, and spends Friday the 13th reading Ouija board stories. Who the fuck does that? That's weird. In the spirit of the season, we've rounded up some spooky stories, all of them based on true events that are guaranteed to haunt you. So turn off the lights if you're brave enough and get ready for ghost stories so real and so terrifying that you won't sleep through the night. So we're going to read these. And you guys tell me, in your opinion, are these the 12 real ghost stories that will send shivers down your spines? We shall see. The Little Hands. I've never lived in a haunted house, but my mother did as a teen. Writes Reddit user Patented Space Hook. Recounting a true event, other houses on her street had strange things going on too. A few homes away from her lived a family. One night the daughter went to bed with a bad headache. The next day she was dead. Jesus Christ. She passed away from an aneurysm. After a funeral, the family went away to get their minds off the tragedy, and the father asked my uncle, my mom's brother, to check on their pets. My mom and dad, who were dating at the time, went with him. My mother had heard that there was a grand piano and she wanted to play it. My dad was studying to be a veterinarian. After entering the house, my uncle and father headed to the basement to see the animals, and my mother went to the piano on the ground floor. She was playing the piano. She was playing it when she felt something brush her ankles. She thought a cat must have left the basement and walked past her. She kept playing it, and then she felt it again. She looked under the piano and saw nothing. When she started again, she felt hand clasp her legs tightly. She dashed to the basement door, called my uncle and father, and waited for them back outside. My uncle could tell my mom was rattled and asked what was wrong. She told him what had happened, and he turned white. He told her the daughter who had died usually played... Oh my God. That just gave me chills when I just read that and didn't even read it out loud yet. He told her the daughter who had died used to play a game with her father. When he played the piano, she'd crawl underneath, grab his ankles, and push his feet up and down on the pedals. Oh my God. That was weird. That was weird how it gave me chills right there. That was kind of creepy. Start seeing shit behind me and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. The Phantom Patient. The ambulance company that I used to work for had a haunted ambulance. Rig 12. Recounts Reddit.com user Zerbo. A lot of EMTs had stories about it, but I'd never put much stock into paranormal stuff. That is until I had my own experience with Rig 12. My partner and I were working in a rural community at 3 a.m. It was pitch dark and completely quiet. We were both dozing. I was in the driver's seat and she was in the passenger seat. I woke up to a muffled voice, but I thought my partner was talking. I told her I was trying to sleep and closed my eyes. I distinctly heard a male's voice say, "Oh my God, am I dying?" followed by a few seconds of heavy breathing. My partner and I sat up straight and looked back into the patient compartment when it sounded like the voice where the sounded like the voice had came from. These things were quiet for a couple seconds. Then we heard the click of an oxygen bottle regulator and a hiss as if it was leaking. I turned on the lights. We ran out of the rig. I thought that the transient I thought a transient might have climbed in while we were asleep. So we opened the rear doors. No one was there. I checked the oxygen bottles. Neither was open. We didn't sleep much after that. Jesus Christ, these can just go on, just to entice and keep the energy going. You know what I mean? The impish ghost. My neighbor Diane and I had a playful poltergeist for years, and we called it Billy. So begins Reddit user Abby's alibi. In the real life ghost story, I'd come home and find something put in a weird place: milk in the cupboard, toilet paper in the fridge, laundry detergent in the bathtub. Diane once called to ask if Billy had been around because she could not find a gallon of milk. We finally found it outside on her back steps, and sugar, darn sugar, every morning my sugar bowl was empty. When I'd had enough, I would point to Diane's home and yell, "Go see Diane." Within 5 minutes, I get a call from her. "Thanks a lot," she'd say. "He's gone and pulling shenanigans at her place." This occurred for the entire 2 years we lived there. No one believed us, not even our husbands. My mother thought someone was stealing from us when we were sleeping or out of the house. My sister believed something was going on, but didn't know. I still can't explain any of it. The Eerie Attic. Before Reddit user Digsdoll got down to recounting their scariest of the ghost stories about living in a place that was obviously teeming with honest to goodness members of the spiritual world. They pointed out the irony of ghost stories that began with the phrase, "I don't believe in ghosts, but," after all, no matter how a ghost story begins, it always hinges on the notion that, come on, of course, we believe in ghosts. A few years ago, I moved into a bedroom apartment in Melbourne, Australia. They went on to recall it was my first time living on my own. The apartment block had been built in the 1930s. It'd been there for a few months. When I came back from work one day and went into the bathroom, I saw something strange. A wooden board which had been covered, which had covered a hole in the ceiling that led to a small attic space, lay fractured in two pieces on the ground. I examined the pieces. The board was an inch thick, and it would have taken Bruce Lee to break it. I thought that the landlord had sent someone up to work on the attic. I was frozen stiff with fear. Someone is up there for sure, I thought. I emailed pictures to the landlord asking if anyone had been there. With an undertone of annoyance, since she hadn't warned me, her reply read, "Please call me as soon as you're able to." I called and explained that her last two tenants had said the same thing happened. She promised to replace the board, and she did. A month later, what the fuck? I woke up one night around 4 a.m. My body was covered in goosebumps. I felt like somebody was rubbing his or her hands on me. Everything was silent, but then I heard dragging sounds coming from above my bed. It was as if someone was pulling a sack of potatoes. I froze, convinced someone was up there. There was no way an animal could make that sound. After 5 minutes, I worked up the courage to turn on the light, armed myself with the cricket bat, and walked to the bathroom. That's when I saw it. The new board covering the hole was broken in two. I felt sick. The dragging sound had stopped, but I heard something else whispering. The sound was clear and coming from the attic. It sounded like children's voices, and I could hear one sentence repeated over and over. "It's your turn. It's your turn." I switched on every light in that apartment to make things feel normal. It was 5 a.m. and dark outside. I watched TV to try to unwind, then a fuse blew. My pet budgie, whatever that is, Dexter, whom I'd kept in the kitchen, usually never made a sound at night. But he started squawking like he was being strangled, and I never heard him make those sort of noises. He was screaming. I grabbed my keys, ran out, sat in my car, and waited there until the sun came up. So you left your pet? Jesus Christ. When I saw people walking dogs, this comforted me enough to go back in the front door. To go back in. The front door was open, but I figured I might have forgotten to close it when I ran out. Went to the kitchen to check on Dexter, but he wasn't in his cage. I felt sick again. All my windows were closed, so I looked everywhere inside. When I walked to the bathroom, I heard splashing. Dexter was half drowned in the toilet. I took him out, washed him, and dried him. I was so confused. At 8 a.m., I called the landlord and gave her a watered down version of the night. Oh, wow. You heard the whispering, too, she said. See, that's the thing that pisses me off, and that's what irritates me the most, is people know about these things, and they just let people think, like, oh, it's just in our mind, whatever. And then it happens, you're like, what the fuck, you knew about it? Like, that shit makes me mad. I stayed in that apartment for another 18 months. Jesus Christ. I heard the whispering on a few occasions, and twice the board covering the hole in the ceiling moved. Although I live somewhere else now, the landlord recently called. She said that her new tenants had begged to speak with me about some of the stuff that's been going on there. Forget it. It's their problem now. Yeah, no shit. Uh-oh. My wife doesn't like these kind of stories. The boy with no eyes. One night, when I was 10, I was woken up by my bedroom door opening, followed by someone sitting on my bed. Recalls of a childhood brush with a very persistent ghost apparition. I felt my leg graze and the bed sink under the person's weight. It's just Mom, I thought, and I opened my eyes. It was not Mom. I found an eyeless boy. He had black, empty sockets about my age sitting at the foot of my bed. He extended his hand, and in was a little box. I was startled, but reached out. He pulled back. I reached again and said, give it. Then I blinked, and when I reopened my eyes, he was gone, but I could still see the imprint where he had sat on my bed. Fast forward 5 years. My girlfriend came over to do homework. After she finished, she took a nap. While she waited for her parents, when they arrived, I tried waking her up. She opened her eyes suddenly, looking up at the corner where the wall met the ceiling. She pointed there and went back to sleep again. I shook her again. She came to full consciousness, and I explained what she'd done. She looked haunted. Up on the wall, I saw a little boy with no eyes. He was there, and a Spider-Man pose staring at me. I freaked out and told her my story about the same kid. Jesus Christ. Fast forward another 5 years. I was with the same girlfriend, and we had a 2-year-old. We were living in my parents' house in my old room. My daughter started waking up at the same time every night, and she talked. After a while, I noticed she had almost the same conversation every night. I playfully asked her once whom she was talking to. She said, it's a little boy. He's nice, he's lost, and he's looking for his mommy. My daughter's nightly conversation continued until we got our own place later that year. Jesus Christ. The Red Lady of Huntingdon College. Here's a story that dates back to 1910, but almost any student at Huntingdon College in Montgomery, Alabama should recognize it. That's because the events that led up to it is said to have actually happened. As the story goes, in 1910, a young woman who was new to the school was known for her love of the color of red. Sadly, she was also known for being strange and a loner. That's not a bad thing. As the first term got underway, the young woman grew increasingly isolated. Eventually, she took her life by slashing her wrist. Her body was discovered in a red gown drenched in blood. From then on, students and faculty have been reporting sightings of a young woman dressed in all red. She appeared all around the college campus. The figure dwelling in, I don't know what the hell that word is, isolation, is often cited as a reminder of the importance of being kind to one's peers. Perpetual, dumbass, perpetual isolation. The Ashley Street Ghost. Huntingdon College is just one of the many haunted colleges in America, each with its own ghost stories. This next true tale comes from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. The haunting happened in 1972 at a party hosted by University of Michigan students living in Ashley Street. A 15-year-old girl who was probably had no business being there in the first place suddenly felt a strange bone-chilling cold. According to the Michigan Daily, In an attempt to warm up, she went upstairs because heat rises. We guess. That's when things really went weird. One of the walls on the house started moving, and a black shadow approached the girl. Meanwhile, downstairs, posters were spontaneously popping off the walls and falling into a growing pile on the floor. The girl wandered back downstairs, where she found herself saying these strange words: "The drugs and addiction were my fault, and I accept responsibility for that. But I was not that way deep down inside. I want to apologize to everyone involved for what I've done." What made those words even stranger was the girl did not do drugs, let alone have an addiction. Her words didn't seem all that strange to the students who lived in the house. Before they moved in, the house had been inhabited by a man with a very serious addiction. The reason he no longer lived there, he had died of a heroin overdose. He has the ghost of Ashley Street made any more appearances? That remains a mystery. The Ghost of Frederick Jordan. This real life story concerns a man named Frederick Jordan, who held one of the most lonely and desolate jobs in existence. Jordan was the lighthouse keeper for the Penfield Reef Lighthouse off the coast of Fairfield, Connecticut. Built in 1874, the lighthouse was primarily a way of warning ships of treacherous, hidden reef responsible for more than its fair share of harbor accidents. In 1916, Frederick Jordan was the head lighthouse keeper. Tragically, he drowned in a boating accident just before Christmas on that year, when he was caught in a gale while rowing home to see his family. Ever since then, lighting and equipment malfunctions in the lighthouse have been blamed on Jordan's spiritual presence, but even more chilling is that the keepers of the Penfield Reef Lighthouse often find the lighthouse logbook open to the day Jordan died, and locals have recounted witnessing an unidentifiable figure appearing on the water to help stray boats find their way to safety near the reef. The ghost who came to play. This true ghost story might strike you as more awe than eek, but only until you consider that we really have no idea what our four-legged friends can sense, what sense that we cannot. Can dogs see ghosts? Well, there are plenty of dogs experts out there, including veterinarians, who will attest to the fact that there's a lot of documentation that could support the notion that dogs can sense paranormal activity. As Jesus Armandi, a senior veterinarian from Chewy, put it. And then there's the fact of the story came to the Reader's Digest directly from a well-known psychic medium, Christy Robinette, who has a strong record for using her ghost whispering skills to help detectives solve confounding cases. Marlene settled onto her side of the bed and patted Jack's pillow beside her. A year had gone by, but Marlene was still adjusting to the widowhood. Maybe it was crazy to think that after 40 years of marriage, she would ever adjust. Elmer, the golden retriever, seemed to understand this from the very first. That cold, moonless night when Marlene returned alone from the hospital, Elmer did something he'd never done before. He jumped up onto Jack's side of the bed and laid his head on the pillow. Jack would never have allowed it, Robinette pointed out, but Marlene didn't shoo him off. Instead, she lay down beside Elmer and let the peaceful sound of his snoring lull her to sleep. The next night was the same, and the night after that. Over the past year, it had grown into a comforting routine, but not tonight. Tonight was the first time Elmer had left Marlene alone in the bed since Jack's passing. But hearing nails clicking on the wood floor downstairs, Marlene recognized the sound of Elmer requesting to go outside. With a sigh, Marlene made her way down the stairs to the foyer, but Elmer wasn't pacing in front of the big oak door. Rather, he was dancing and wagging and wiggling and bowing, just like he used to do when Jack would come home from work. To Marlene, it felt as if Jack had just come home, and Robinette, who is known for her remarkable intuition about these things, believes that is indeed what happened. Yeah, I think that could be. I mean, dogs are already weirded out by every sound. So, I mean, it seems like they have so much sensory glands in like their ears and their nose and their eyesight. Like, I don't know. Dogs are weird though, man. Dogs are creepy, that's for sure. Like my dad has a dog. His name's Wally. Wally, and he's a weird dog, man. He stares off into the distance at just nothing, and it's pretty creepy. So, yeah. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. Roanoke Colony was one of its first European settlements in the United States, located on an island off the coast of what is now the state of North Carolina. The colony was established in 1587 under the auspices of the first Queen Elizabeth. Soon after the colony leader, John White, returned to England from where the settlers came, his trip was meant to be brief. He was only meant to grab supplies and return to the New World. But political upheaval in the form of England's war with Spain prevented White from returning until 1590. So what's that? 3 years. It was only the next sentence. It was only 3 years, but a lot had changed when John White returned. In fact, the entire colony, consisting at the time of 100 people, including a newborn baby named Virginia Dare, was gone, just up and vanished. All that was left was a post onto which the word Croatoan had been carved. Croatoan referred to the name of the native tribe that had been on good terms with the settlers. So White thought the colonists had moved to Croatoan Island, known as Hatteras, North Carolina. But they had not. It remains one of the most famous disappearances that no one can explain. What's more, there's never been any evidence to suggest the colony was massacred. Many believe the baby Virginia grew up into a beautiful young woman, one who eventually fell into a doomed love affair with a native warrior by the name of Okisko. To this day, she haunts the woods in search of her man, often in the form of diaphanous white deer, one that always vanishes at dawn. According to the NCpedia, a state encyclopedia maintained by North Carolina government and Heritage Library, longtime residents of the island have no doubt the identity of the phantom deer is the ghost of Virginia Dare. Jesus Christ. Some of these aren't that creepy, though. All right. Let's go over this one. The Ghost of the Hanged Man. One theme that many ghost stories have in common is they offer a sense of justice in return for a wrongful death. This particular ghost story, however, offers a somewhat different take. It's about a wrongful treatment and a death and revenge in its afterlife. On October 13th, 1877, Robert Schmale was hanged after a trial that found him guilty of a terrifying and inexplicable murder spree. The townspeople were filled with so much anger and hatred, they left his body hanging for days. The tale says not one of the townspeople demonstrated even a shred of remorse, let alone forgiveness. Since then, Schmale has been said to haunt the town. Those who have seen him says he appears as a ghostly male figure, but as soon as the figure registers in your mind, it disappears, somewhat maddeningly, into the darkness. Yeah. And if you're into that kind of stuff, I mean, some of those are pretty crazy. I don't know if that's the creepiest stories, but it seems to be the most recent, I guess, or one that popped up most recently, I guess. That was in May 9th. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that was just recently. It was updated in May 9th, 2023. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. So, real ghost stories that will send shivers down. I would say like the first three were probably really good, but then it just kind of falls off. But it's still a good read. Still a good story, though. I enjoyed it. So, yeah. But other than that, guys, I mean, that's about it. About me talking for about 50 minutes right there. So, you guys got all the different types of creepy-ass little fairies that are out there, or big ones, whatever you want to call it. So, you guys know about that now. And then just to throw in there just some ghost stories that I always like to talk about and like to add in there. So I hope you guys appreciate that. Hope it sounded all right. And yeah, other than that, have a great and wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you guys next week with another episode. Take care, guys. Thank you.